Howdy. For our group, Group 45, we have decided to do a infrastructure proposition for the island nation of Comoros. This infrastructure proposition specifically regards uh, transportation infrastructure as the road networks and all that on the island nation of Comoros are very underdeveloped, and we believe that choosing a unique country like the island nation of Comoros, which not very many people know about when it comes to island nations or African geography, we thought this could be a unique opportunity to not only choose a unique location, but also to come up with an interesting proposition to see how it would work to rebuild and redevelop a lot of these road networks and the overall transportation infrastructure on this island nation. So let's get into it. To provide some context, Comoros is a small island nation off of the coast of Africa, right in between the countries of Mozambique and Madagascar. So, in the Indian Ocean, where there are a lot of tropical storms and potentials for cyclones that can destroy a lot of these island communities in this country. Along with that, it is not very big population-wise, nor does it have a very sustainable economy, and so that has resulted in the nation suffering economically and being very poor. And with that brings poor infrastructure, and we notice that with all these tropical storms that Comoros is very susceptible to, we want to provide solutions such as improving along the transportation infrastructure to improve the quality of life in this nation. So let's jump into it.
As Ben just discussed, Comoros is a small chain of islands in the Indian Ocean. Due to its location, Comoros frequently experiences tropical cyclones and flooding. Tropical cyclones are the greatest storms on Earth. They originate between tropical latitudes of 5 and 20 degrees and rotate around a low P center. Cyclones do not develop within 5 degrees of the equator because the Coriolis effect is too weak there, which is the force that causes the cyclone to spin. If you look at the map on the left, Comoros can be found in the little black square, making it inside tropical cyclone territory. Cyclones form over warm tropical waters where sea surface temperatures must be 80 degrees Fahrenheit or more. The infographic on the right shows this process. The warm water rises into the atmosphere, and as it rises, the water vapor cools and condenses into liquid droplets. During the process of condensation, heat is released into the atmosphere, making the air lighter. The warm air continues to rise, and as it does, more air moves in near the surface to take its place, which is the strong wind we feel from these storms. Overall, a tropical cyclone is characterized by low atmospheric pressure and heavy rain, and its winds exceed 74 miles per hour. On average, cyclones occur in Comoros about 2 times per year during the months of January to April. Long periods of precipitation result from these tropical cyclones, which in turn causes intense flooding. The topography of Comoros is rugged, with many steep slopes, which intensifies the runoff strength of rainwater and increases flooding throughout the towns. Because it is susceptible to cyclones and therefore flooding, Comoros sadly suffers from lots of destruction and the death of many lives. The Southwest Indian Ocean Risk Assessment and Financing Initiative released data on loss summaries throughout Comoros. Looking at the graph on the left, Comoros has an average annual direct loss of $3.6 million from tropical cyclones. Then looking at the graph on the right, Comoros has an average annual direct loss from flooding of $2 million. These devastating losses are why we have proposed the following mitigation plan.
Our mitigation proposal is constructed around one key element or idea, which is better roads lead to more efficient evacuations. A part of our mitigation plan is to improve the road and transportation networks of the Comoros. That way, when hazards appear and disaster strikes, individuals and families within the various communities are able to evacuate. Research from the National Roads and Road Transport Office shows that Comoros' road network makes up 800 kilometers worth of roads. That's around 497 miles, with about 50% of these roads being classified under conditions of good and fair, and around 30% being in bad and or very bad condition. In these areas, most of the roads are partly or completely degraded, making it difficult as well as dangerous to have the roads fully operational. With additional hardships from weather disasters and climate patterns, the road situation in Comoros is looking more dire than ever. Comoros is vulnerable to hazards due to the road quality, preventing evacuations, and cutting off food, water, and other essential emergency relief. As stated, the climate patterns in Comoros may worsen over the upcoming years. With this information, the need for working roads to ensure evacuation procedures is more critical than ever. A road network evaluation tool was used by the World Bank team in partnership with the Comoros government to collect road data. The first table shown here on this slide incorporates the spending done by the Comoros government with a total of 5.41 million US dollars spent on average to invest, build, and maintain the roads of Comoros over the past few years. In this bottom table, however, to improve roads to their optimal conditions, Comoros will need to spend around $12.4 million, making the financial goal of this plan roughly $7 million.
Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about how to actually execute this plan to give Comoros their new and safer roads. So, like, where is the money coming from and who's actually building it? Now, unfortunately, Comoros is a rather poor country, all things considered. I believe their GDP is just about 1.32 billion. However, fortunately, they are a pretty big importer of refined petroleum, aka gasoline, from United Arab Emirates. And actually, in 2022, UAE exported about $12.6 million worth of refined petroleum. Now, this is especially good because we're talking roads. And as the roads become safer, more usable, there's just more roads to drive on in general. People that have cars will be driving more, they'll be driving longer distances on average, and maybe more people will be getting cars in total. And so that would lead to an increased demand for oil or refined petroleum. And so we're hoping that United Arab Emirates is going to see that increased demand since they are a big exporter of oil, and they're going to kind of invest, if you will, in Comoros' new roads. So as of now, a good portion of that $7 million is going to come from United Arab Emirates, hopefully. Now, secondly, who's actually going to engineer these roads? We could get the laborers from Comoros. So far, they have a 5.7% unemployment rate, and I think somewhere, actually, the majority of workers in Comoros are some sort of laborers. So we would employ the people of Comoros to actually be like the construction workers there to build the roads. Now, the more difficult question is like who's going to be engineering it, because it's difficult to get people to want to fly out to Comoros since there are not a lot of civil engineers in Comoros themselves. So we're thinking about launching an internship program for civil engineer graduates who need a job and just have a couple experienced professionals supervising it.
So what happens next? If the plan is approved, the new roads would enhance the country's ability to withstand the impact of cyclones by providing better access to affected areas for emergency response teams, aid organizations, and residents. The improved infrastructure would facilitate faster and more effective response and recovery efforts in the aftermath of cyclones, including the transportation of relief supplies, medical assistance, and evacuation of vulnerable populations. The plan would also create more jobs regarding construction that would be very beneficial to Comoros' economy. If Comoros isn't able to get new and better roads, we might expect to see Comoros' continued vulnerability to cyclones. There would also be challenges in evacuating populations from at-risk areas and delivering timely assistance and aid. And lastly, it would limit Comoros' overall growth and prosperity due to the fact that poor road conditions can have a negative impact on their economic development by limiting their access to commerce and essential services. The general process and timeline will look like the figure on the right. The plan is first approved, then the money is fundraised, which hopefully is from the United Arab Emirates, who choose to invest in Comoros. Then the engineer internship program would be started, and they design and create these new and better roads, which will then be built by laborers in Comoros in order to create more jobs that will boost their economy. Then when all is done, Comoros should be more prepared for future cyclones. So we hope that you all are able to consider our proposal to help lower Comoros' vulnerability to cyclones and contribute to the long-term sustainability and resilience of Comoros.